Joe Shane and the clips that came out about Hard Knocks, because I was going to restart my Max subscription later this summer to watch Hard Knocks. I forget who's on it this year, but I usually watch it every year. And I do the same thing where I fall in the trap and I come in and I'm like, hey guys, I don't know. I think this team's going to be better than I thought. I was talking shit about the Jets and then I showed up and put them first place in my rankings. I do it every year. I'm a sucker for like I said, training camp footage or, like, oh man, did you see that guy make that catch with no defense running routes on air? I love that shit. But the first comment from Joe Shane that went like not viral or whatever, but it was like that was getting a lot of conversation, was Joe Shane talking about how the $12 million running back Saquon Barkley, and then he makes a comment where he goes, oh, it's Daniel Jones's time. Like he doesn't need to be handing off to a $12 million running back. And then there's the conversation about who would actually be in the market for a $12 million running back. And he goes, I think we're going to be able to get a weapon at that point, which they did. They got Malik Neighbors. Congratulations. I think he has a chance to be a great player in the NFL. What did you guys take away from that clip, that specific clip of him talking about Saquon and Daniel Jones and all that? We'll start with Mike on this one.
I didn't see the full episode or the full clip, but I saw what you're talking about, Tony, going around Twitter, where basically he was kind of talking with like, what were those? Just kind of assistant GMs, different staff members within the management, just weighing out the options with Saquon Barkley. And you could tell that Sean wasn't like 100% either way. He wasn't 100% ready to move on from him, but he also wasn't 100% in on paying Saquon. It backfired because that whole comment about would anyone even want to pay a running back this age at this point? Yeah, someone wanted to pay him. Your division rival, Philadelphia Eagles, just brought him in and put him behind one of the best O-lines in the NFL. So it just depends, I guess, on where the Giants are going. And it was a tough situation. But in my mind, I don't view Daniel Jones as the guy. I don't think he's going to elevate this team. Whatever ideas that the Giants GM has of it being Danny Dimes' time, it's his time, all right. It's time to put you in the top 10 again next year.
So that's one of the things where that I took away more than anything is he's really defending Daniel Jones and his team and his leadership and his ability, and we need to put him in this position. From all the stuff that I read or heard, it didn't seem like he really wanted to give Daniel Jones that contract. It came more from ownership kind of interfering and saying, hey, Daniel is the kind of guy that we want to be the leader of this organization. And by all accounts, he seems like a great leader, but it's like when you pay somebody that kind of money, the expectations for them to carry out their responsibilities, it goes to another level than just being mature and being the face of a franchise. You have to actually elevate the team on the field. So, like, I'm wondering if this thing goes sideways, does he still get to keep his job? Like, does ownership step in and go like, hey, we made the call to keep him, and we could see that if that position was handled differently, you think he'd get the boot after like 2 or 3? I think it'll be season 3 if that happens.
I think if it goes bad, which is most likely what's going to happen, they're going to move on to a new head coach, probably new GM. I know that he's new in this. I guess it just depends. I'm eyeing the Bill Belichick thing and the potential of him coming back to the Giants and kind of keeping it with that connection. And Bill Belichick might not want to go and venture off and coach for all these different teams. He can keep it where I coach for the Patriots and the Giants. And if that ends up being a situation where he goes, I want to have the GM spot too, you think they're going to stand up for Joe and be like, you can be co-GMs?
No,
I don't think so.
No, probably not.
I think any team would be stupid. I think any team would be stupid to give Bill Belichick GM powers again. You bring him in as a head coach, you don't bring him in as a GM. Like, I don't know if it's the same GM or you keep the same GM. I know the rumors are out there that Bill Belichick and Dak Prescott are your combination going to New York next year. So they're setting it up where they're putting a bunch of pressure on Danny Dimes this year. I just, like I told you, Tony, that conversation was a good conversation for NFL fans to hear. And and I've always wanted this. I'm like you, Tony, where we always wanted to hear this. We always wanted to be the fly on the wall inside the back rooms like this. But now that it's out there, I'm like, I don't think everybody should be hearing this. Like, I don't think like everybody should have heard this conversation right here. But when I texted you guys and I sent you guys this clip, I go, this shows you what the NFL thinks about running backs right now. And this is what Josh Jacobs was pissed off about the Raiders, because the Raiders only offered him around the same price that they were talking about. They said they didn't want to insult Barkley by offering him $7 million. Jacobs was insulted by the Raiders, offering him $8 million. So that most teams were thinking that was the market. They weren't expecting the Eagles or the Packers or somebody else to jump out there and offer more than $10 million. And that's been the trend for running backs the last couple of years. But it's weird that they moved on without a plan. Like, I guess they were looking at, when they show it, they show all the market, right? Like, they ended up with Singletary, but they were showing like Singletary this, Mixon, blah, blah, blah. And they were showing what else is out there. But that conversation right there is like, I think they kind of knew they were moving on from Barkley last year, like just by the way that conversation went.
So my thing is this, and I think that this is sort of the smart business strategy. If you really want to keep somebody, what you say is, hey, we understand your right to go exercise the market and we want to pay fit market price. Please give us the chance to match any offer that you get, because we do want you to be here and we want you to get a lot. And if another team offers you more than we can afford to give you, then we wish you the best and we thank you for that. But this whole, like, we don't want to offer him this, but we want him here, we don't want to disrespect the player, like, I just don't think that's the case. Because why wouldn't you just say, like, hey, have your agent call us and let us know, like, did Green Bay put in an offer for $12 million? Well, we'll give you. He
eventually did say that.
Who said that?
Didn't he eventually, Shine eventually say that? Like, hey, we're just going to tell him, like, we don't want to insult him by offering him $7 million. So what if we just tell, hey, go test the free agent market and then let us know, and then we'll see if we can match it.
See, this is why I need to see the whole show. Because
he eventually said it.
That means the teaser did his job.
Yes, exactly. Like, and so overall, I think that the NFL is going to realize the offseason stuff is going to be bad, because really they sound like more educated fans having a conversation about football, which is really all what it is, right? They get the behind the scenes stuff. When they see a prospect, they not only can watch film on them, but then they get to meet them. They get to have, in-depth interviews with strength coaches from where they were at, librarians, like, was this person in here studying for classes? Were they actually earning their 4.0 GP? Like, were these people involved in being great members in the community? So you get all of this behind the scenes access to know what these players are really putting in on a day-to-day basis. And that's why they get to make better educated guesses. That's really what this is. Well, it doesn't matter who you draft or where you draft them. You're still hoping that you're getting nothing's a guarantee. Doesn't matter if you're picking first or you're picking 257. It's still a little bit of a gamble no matter what.
Well, my favorite clip out of it that came out is I don't know if I sent you guys this one, where they're standing on they're like out the Senior Bowl or whatever, like all the GMs. It's the Bills GM, Bean, Dan Morgan, Carolina Panthers, and it's the Joe Sheen from the Giants. Did you see that one?
Yes,
they're like when they're offering like Brian. Yes, it reminded me of exactly what we do on here. Hey, Mike, you want to give me a first round pick for this? Or hey, you want to do this? Like, that's exactly what it was, and that's how it started. Because Dan Morgan goes, "You want to give me 2 first round picks for Burns?" And he's like, "No, but we can move on." Like that's, I don't think, like, good fantasy players know that, like, if I throw you an offer right now, Tony, that's not my original offer. Like, that's not my top offer. Like, you know that you're going to send me one back and we're going to go back and forth. So once he knew that Brian Burns was on the block, you opened it up. And that right there was awesome. Like, I was like, hell yeah, I knew they did shit like this. I always wondered when GMs are around each other, like, if you do that little egg out there, like, hey, is so and so available? How much? Oh hell no, it's not available. Or yeah, you told me a couple picks because once somebody says that, hey, maybe if you offer this and you get that little wheel going, there's always a price. There's always a price that somebody will give something up for.
Yeah, I love it. The last thing I wanted to say that I heard come out, which is I think this is another reason why the show can't show the access in the back, is when Joe Shane says, oh, well, not even Patrick Mahomes could have won with the shit offensive line. Or like, I don't know exactly what the quote is, like I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. Like because there was like bleeped out the quote that I saw about the expletive, whatever. But he was saying not even Patrick Mahomes could have won with what we had at offensive line. Two things. One, there's no need to be talking shit about your team, right? You don't need to you need to put down whatever to justify what it is. At least publicly, I don't think you need to do that kind of stuff. Privately, we all do it. It doesn't matter. Like, it's a business, it's comparison. But publicly, it's like, oh shit, the GM is out here like, I was one of those guys, like I could be one of those guys in another situation. And then on top of it, you never, in no circumstance, draw a comparison of your quarterback to the best quarterback playing right now, to somebody who's on a trajectory to be the best player at the position of all time. Why are you even drawing a comparison like, oh, well, Mahomes couldn't? First of all, yeah, he could have. Even in the Super Bowl against the Bucs, Mahomes was dealing in that Super Bowl game when he had like 3 backup offensive linemen in there on 2 weeks' notice. If a couple of those passes are caught, a couple different things happen differently, like Mahomes could have potentially won 3 or 4 Super Bowls in a row. Like, yes, Mahomes would have been just fine. Maybe they don't win the Super Bowl, but he wins a hell of a lot more than Daniel Jones does with the same pieces. Like, we've already seen it happen. Like, the receiving core last year for the Chiefs, was it really that much different? Like, you could make an argument that like Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, I'm blanking on the other Jalen Hyatt. Like, was that different than what he was working with last year in a rookie and Rashee Rice and MVS and Sky Moore? Like, it's pretty much like a similar talent pool there. And Mahomes went out and was an MVP candidate. So don't make that comparison, dude. That's insane to me that you would do that.
And say what you will about the offensive line, the turnover monster is a turnover monster. Even if the offensive line sucks, you could take a sack. I believe Daniel Jones is second in the league in turnovers since he's entered the league pretty much over the last 5 years is the stat. Only behind Josh Allen, but with Josh Allen, you get 1,000 yards rushing and some insane play. You don't get that added on with Daniel Jones. You might get some rushing upside, but man, he became a turnover monster his first couple years in the league, cleaned it up, went back to it, and now, he's dealing with injuries and stuff. I've never been high on Daniel Jones since the day that he was drafted, and now the Giants are $50 million in on him. I don't know how long is his contract too? Didn't he just sign it last offseason?
Yeah,
but I think there's an out after this year. Like, I think it was like a 3 or 4 year deal, but it was like there was something that they can get out of the second year. But it was a bad contract when he signed it. Everybody knew, like, laughing at it when they did it. But the Giants had put themselves in the situation where they had to give him the contract. But this is what we've always talked about NFL contracts. That the next man up is that. But I don't know if you guys need to go watch the show a little bit more too. They actually talk about more free agents as well. They talked about pairing Dexter Lawrence with Chris Jones before he was signed by. And then they actually talked about Christian Wilkins because I guess Christian Wilkins and Lawrence are friends, and they wanted that to happen. But then they talked about that Wilkins isn't a playmaker on third down. He isn't a good enough third down disruption. Like that's what I said, Tony. I've always wanted to hear this kind of stuff. But when you put it out to millions of fans now, it's like, because this could make you like you said, this could put more pressure on the GMs and the player and the people and the scouts that are now saying stuff, because everybody has an opinion, and you've seen scouting reports on players, and that player goes and does exactly the opposite of what that scouting report says, and it doesn't really come out. Like But it's just like this now with millions of people watching this show, they're gonna remember everything that the Giants said about certain players and be like, well, look at Barkley now, look at Wilkins on third downs now. It's just gonna add up more and more. But I mean, I love it. I'll take the content as long as they put it up there.
So the one of the GMs in there too, I think, was the young man who interviewed for the Chargers job, who had some sort of crossover with Harbaugh, and he got an interview, and he's now with the Giants as sort of like an assistant second in command personnel player decision guy there, did a lot with college scouting and whatever, and he's still pretty young. I wonder how this is going to make them look to other owners, because now they're going to be able to have actual footage of saying like, hey, you were in the room when this stuff was happening, and we didn't see you raising your hand to do this or that or whatever, because these guys use every single piece of information they can use and also are still calling around and getting references and what they did. Like, is there these little moments like the Hugh Jackson moment with the Browns when he was like, Baker, you won the number 2 job. Oh, really? Your number 1 overall pick, you're gonna do something where he wins the backup role or whatever, and that's gonna be that was just like, there was a bunch of cringeworthy moments that one year in Hard Knocks where it was like people were like, yeah, Hugh Jackson will never be a head coach again. Like, we don't care how much success he's had as a coordinator or what staffs or whatever. Like, this is just awkward, and you can't talk to grown professionals like this.
Especially when you come out and you say, I was asked to throw games for X amount of money, but I turned them down. We went 0-16 and 1-15 without the money. Sure you did, buddy. Wow. Sure you did.
They need the money to lose every game, okay? Yeah. We'll do it on our own.
I didn't buy this beach house with dirty money. I bought it with straight integrity.